Greetings. I am Brother Sylvester Muhammad, and this is my wife.
Sister Sandra Muhammad.
And we would like to welcome you all out once again to the timeline of the original man according to God's criteria, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Today, we're going to break from the timeline. But to show you where we've come thus far, we've came from the 78 trillion years ago when God created himself and his second self, being the woman. And brothers, I want to say, I'm going to have to do a whole thing on just the woman alone. Because when I saw this, where's the final call? This particular final call, it really impacted me. It took me back to why I started to go in and out of the school systems back in the early 80s. They used to let me in the school systems to teach Black History Month. But I brought so much information the teachers were threatened. One young boy asked the teacher, "Why don't you know that?" Because I was teaching the timeline of the original man. And she couldn't answer. So the miseducation of the Negro is where we are now. Now, so much. The woman. Seeing that picture, let us know that we are not doing as Black men, regardless of race, regardless of your religiousity, regardless of what you believe, regardless of what education level you're on. If our children are not being educated, they're in the streets, they're shooting and killing, they're setting up playing video games and learning how to shoot and kill, then that means that we must have been miseducated on what it takes to build a family. And that's why the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is so important, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad brings it back to the family. And the family revolves around the female. I'm going to say this and I'm going to let it go. The female, what makes her the second self of God? Okay, let's look at it. God is a man, but he's also a man with feminine characteristics, and he made the woman after himself, based on the dark womb of space. Now take this, and I'm gonna let it go. I didn't even tell my wife I was gonna say it, but since I'm thinking it, I'm gonna say it. Because we talked about it before. The female or the male have, you count, the male have 9 openings. The female have 10. Now, I'm not going into it, but that 10th opening is the key to life itself, and that's her womb. That's what makes her sacred. God patterned her after the womb by which he created all things from. Coming after her, then the sun. Okay, the stars, 72 trillion. 60 trillion years ago, we put the moon out there. 50,000 years ago, Shabazz, 35,000. Okay? Buddhism, 16,000. The Native Americans came across the Bering Straits, right here. And then you have 6,000 years with the making of the devil. Dr. Yakub finding that recessive gene within us, and then giving it form and expression, doing us a service by giving it form and expression so that it can challenge us. Because we needed a challenger. And back to that 50,000 years ago, it made infinity material. But 4,000 years after that, he was Musa. We sent him Musa to bring him out of the hills and cave sides of Europe, to get him ready for his responsibility of rulership. The Honorable Elijah, Minister Louis Farrakhan, the minister in the criteria, called him the wicked husbandman. He didn't have to be wicked. That was a wine press in the garden that produced righteous wine, holy wine. But he chose to deal with the wickedness of the wine that he made. But that's another story for another time. Okay, the wicked husband. 2,000 years ago, Jesus on our timeline. 1,400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad. Now, after that, we're supposed to be going into Columbus. But since this is February, and that little boy had such an impact on me. I mean February, which is called Black History what? Black History Month. I dare you, Caucasians, our enemy, Satan, I dare you, try to take our story, the timeline of the original man, and put it in the shortest month of the year. So we're gonna deal with that timeline, and we're gonna at this time we're gonna go into a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. Now it was Carter G. Woodson. They came up with Black History Week when I was in school, and to prove that we have been miseducated, we haven't went no further than the month that they gave us. We didn't choose a month, but it shows that we lack the knowledge of ourselves. But I want you to hear our beloved brother Carter G. Woodson talk in 1920, 1930s. You're gonna read from the back, read his bio. Okay. We're gonna. My wife is gonna read a little bio on him, but he put this out in the 30s. But I want you to hear it for what it is. It's talking about us today because we have not excelled as a people. We still are slaves by another name. We still are slaves by another name. Come on, baby.
Okay, like my husband said, this book is called The
Miseducation of the Negro.
Carter G. Woodson, born in New Canton, Virginia, December 19, 1875. He died April 2nd, 1950. It says distinguished Negro history specialist, author of 16 books about the Negro, initiated the annual February observation of Negro History Week, founder of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, and founder and editor of the Journal of Negro History and the Negro History Bulletin.
Allahu Akbar.
Okay. So I'm going to start reading some of the intro actually, and we'll have a little discussion about that. Okay. So this is the introduction, a portion. It says, or he says, only by careful study of the Negro himself and the life which he is forced to lead can we arrive at the proper procedure in this crisis. The mere imparting of information is not education.
What? Read that again.
He says the mere imparting of information is not education.
Is not education. I was looking for a book that was written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. My wife fell in love with it. I can't find it. It's called Proper Education Liberates. And to this day, the public school system, the colleges, higher learning, they all prove that we have not had proper education because we are still singing, we shall overcome. We have not been liberated as a people.
That's right.
Come on, baby.
It says, above all things, the effort must result in making a man think and do for himself, just as the Jews have done in spite of universal persecution.
Read that again, please.
It says, above all things, the effort must result in making a man think and do for himself, just as the Jews have done in spite of universal persecution.
Now this is Carter G. Woodson, 1920, 1933. This book came out. He's talking about doing for self like the Jews do for themselves. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was just coming on the scene. But this man saw the light and he knew that we had been miseducated. So he attempted to open our eyes, to get us to see that we got to do more than just be carbon copies.
That's right.
Of Caucasians or white people. I ain't gonna call them white. They're not white. They're Caucasians. Come on, baby.
Okay, it says, the only question which concerns us here is whether these educated persons are actually equipped to face the ordeal before them or unconsciously contribute to their own undoing.
Come on, read that again.
By perpetuating the regime of the oppressor. Okay.
Please listen.
He says, the only question which concerns us here is whether these educated persons, which are black people, these educated persons are actually equipped to face the ordeal before them, or unconsciously contribute to their own undoing by perpetuating the regime of the oppressor.
What have we achieved? Come on, you always want to hook up with the Caucasian and say, look what we've done. But you're not a Bill Gates. You're not what's Elon Musk. You have we have some people that have a little money, but but in comparison to the Rockefellers and the DuPonts, forget about it. They'll never let you in there. The rest of them are just bait.
Yeah, and also too, when you talk about, having, we're talking about as a people.
As a
Because
people.
individually, they'll allow you to get through. They'll pull, a few crabs out of the barrel, when they want to, to control us.
Yes.
But as a people, that's what he's talking about, as a people, not as individuals.
Not as individuals.
Okay, he says, it is merely a matter of exercising common sense in approaching people through their environment in order to deal with conditions as they are, conditions as they are, rather than as you would like to see them or imagine that they are. There may be a difference in method of attack, but the principles remain the same.
Good reading. Come on. A difference in the method of attack, but the principles remain the same. We don't change. We follow the blueprint of our former slave masters and their children to the letter.
That's right.
See, this man is thinking separately. He's thinking separation. I can't help but wonder what was the relationship between him and W.E.B.D. Du Bois during that time, who was one that's called for the talented 10. But if you study W.E.B. Du Bois reached the conclusion where he realized that, like Martin Luther King said, that he was afraid that he was taking his people into a burning house.
That's right.
Huh?
Integrating them into a
Integrating his people into a burning house. And so what W.E.B. Du Bois did, he decided, I can't take this no more, because they're not responding. And where he used to be critical of people like Booker T. Washington, he eventually went back he went to Ghana, and there he died up under the Ghanaian flag, which represents the Star of Justice.
That's right.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm going to go on and read. It says, if the whites decide to take up Mormonism, the Negroes must follow their lead.
The Negroes must follow their lead.
If the whites neglect such a study, then the Negroes must do likewise. So everything that they do,
Wow.
we follow, because they have made us that way. When they brought us here, they made us that way. So that's the way we think.
And if you try to take a lead, let's talk Tulsa, Oklahoma. We wanted to take the lead. What did they do? The first time a bomb was dropped on American soil was on black people that wanted to be separated by thinking about doing something for ourselves. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Then there was Rosewood. Come on, we've seen the pictures. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time. Come on, baby.
Right. Okay, he says, for example, the philosophy and ethics resulting from our educational system has justified slavery, peonage, segregation, and lynching.
Read that again, please.
For example, the philosophy and ethics resulting from our educational system have justified slavery, peonage, segregation, and lynching.
And see, to this day, we want to accept the fact that it was wrong. We want to say we had our head in a hole, saying, "Well, that was then."
In shame.
In shame, like we did something. I mean, we built this country, free labor for them, but we hiding our head.
No, they should.
No. They should be ashamed. And in fact, they don't even want it, black history taught on no level now, because they see the timeline coming out. And they don't want black history taught on no level now. Down in Florida, they just banned it, teaching black studies in the public school system. Come on, baby.
That's right. So what's left?
What's left?
What's left to teach? Except white superiority.
And destruction of
That's
the black young minds of our
right.
children.
Okay. It says, if the whites neglect such a study, then the Negroes must do likewise.
Likewise.
For example, the philosophy and ethics resulting from the educational system have justified slavery, peonage, segregation, and lynching. The oppressor has the right to exploit, to handicap, and to kill the oppressed.
They will never respect us until we look at the last shekel of slavery, which is that name. See, as long as you in their name, you are their property.
That's right.
And they know it. They don't have to worry about you. I don't care how much of their education you got, you still a slave.
That's right.
Still a slave.
And a lot of times we're worse when we have their education, because that's how they're getting us. They're getting us through their educational system.
Yeah.
You know, and then that makes our people feel like they're better than the other of our people that have not gotten that type of education, or who have not fallen in line with that education. If you try to come up out of that, or when you come up out of that, to think on the level of a God, and then that becomes a problem, and then we end up fighting against each other. But that's the way they taught us.
That's the way they taught us. Good point, baby.
Okay, he says, no systematic effort toward change has been possible. For taught the same economics, history, philosophy, literature, and religion which have established the present code of morals, the Negro's mind has been brought under the control of his oppressor. On all those levels. The problem of holding the Negro down, therefore, is easily solved. When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions.
When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions.
That's right.
This Caucasian has made us all up into himself. You have to come out his construct.
That's right.
You have to come out his matrix.
That's right.
Or continuing to be made a trick
That's right.
by him through his educational system. I'm not condemning the educational system. You can get it, but you need to bring it where it can be used to build something for yourself, because he's going down.
That's right.
Now you can go down with him, or you can accept
Your own.
the criteria,
Yeah.
your own, and learn to be yourself. And I'm talking about the minister. He's the last voice you're going to hear as the destruction has already set in. He told us to watch the weather. Are you watching?
That's right.
Come on, baby.
The war of Armageddon.
The
has
war of
begun.
Armageddon has begun.
Okay. It says, you do not have to tell him not to stand here or to go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door, meaning the Negro or blacks.
All blacks back in
Right.
and this is in the 30s.
Yeah.
This is 2023. This is in the 30s. Listen at this, brother.
Yeah. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go out. He will go without being told.
He will.
In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one in
Woo.
for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. And that is so serious, because whatever they tell us to do, we do. You know? And like he's saying, the more education you have, their education. You know,
That's
the
not
more you
proper.
follow that way. Whatever he say, that's what we end up doing. And we must stop doing that and do for self and get the knowledge of self and the knowledge of God.
And that's why when the minister talks, when we open it, the timeline, the saying of the minister about Mas Meriam, he said the whole planet need to be re-educated, because the whole planet has been revolving around the mind of Satan.
Yeah.
All have fallen short of the glory of God. God is here now. He's present. He ain't to come. And he's calling all of humanity back to him. But we all have to choose whether we want to be with Satan or we want to be with God.
That's right. As it said, put you back in your proper place. At least that's what they say, the place that they want you to be in. They put you back in your proper place.
Yes.
It says, the same educational process which inspires and stimulates the oppressor with the thought that he is everything and has accomplished everything worthwhile, depresses and crushes at the same time the spark of genius in the Negro or black man
Depresses.
by making him,
Read
by
it
making
again.
him feel that his race does not amount to much and never will measure up to the standards of other peoples.
Read
Let
that
me read it
again,
again.
please.
It says, the same educational process which inspires and stimulates the oppressor with the thought that he is everything and has accomplished everything worthwhile, depresses and crushes at the same time the spark of genius in the Negro by making him feel that his race does not amount to much and never will measure up to the standards of other peoples. The Negro, thus educated, is a hopeless liability of the race.
Listen to that. And see, that's why he called the book The Miseducation of the Negro. If you got a car and your car started jerking and missing, then it's just a matter of time before it breaks down. If you miss school today, then you might have missed some valuable information that you could have gotten that could have took you to another level. If you are miseducated, then that means somebody willingly and determinedly, willfully decided that they would teach you something other than yourselves. And even in the church, we went to church and we learned to say what the preacher wanted us to say, but while we was in the church, because they didn't let us in their churches.
Right.
And if we did go, we had to sit somewhere up in the balcony.
Yeah.
Minister Farragon talks about that. But the thing is that if we was on the plantation when they did give us the Bible and we began to read it, they sat in the audience. There are pictures of the slave master sitting in the audience to see if you are going to hear the truth.
That's right.
That is up under all of the
Lies.
the lies,
Misconceptions.
the misconceptions,
Right.
the allegoricals.
Yes.
Come on, baby.
That's right, and I want to make a point about that. And it's so deep because as he's saying, their education liberates them and make them feel superior. But that same education at the same time oppresses us as a people and it makes us feel inferior. So that's why we cannot continue under their educational system. We must come out of their system and start our own system. And of course, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did that.
Yes.
So we do have our own universities of Islam, but we need more of that because our people need to rise up. It's more of our people in the public school system than it is in our own educational system. And now you have a lot of black people now that are homeschooling and that are choosing to keep their children at home and educate them themselves. And there are black organizations, homeschool organizations that you can join in with. And over this COVID period, a lot of those came together and started an organization that deals exactly with black people and educating your children at home. And that's what a lot of them are doing now.
Proper education liberates. Come on, baby.
Okay. It says, the Miseducation of the Negro, Chapter 1. The educated Negro have the attitude of contempt toward their own people.
Toward their own people. Contempt.
That's right. Because in their own, for their own people, because their own, as well as in their mixed schools, neither, hold on, let me start over. The educated Negro have the attitude of contempt toward their own people because in their own, as well as in their mixed schools, Negroes are taught to admire the Hebrew, the Greek, the Latin, and to despise the African.
And to despise the African.
That's right.
White supremacy. black inferiority.
That's right.
That's what we get in the public school system.
That's it.
And if you think I'm lying, just look at it. Look at what the teachers, the students are fighting the teachers. That's a cry for justice.
That's right.
They shooting the teachers.
That's
That's
right.
a cry for justice, freedom. They want the truth.
Right. And I mean, it's hard for them to really function under that system because you don't see yourself, or we don't see ourselves in that system in a good light. If we're constantly hating what we see in the mirror because what they're giving us, and they have all kinds of slick ways to do it, but because of what they're giving us, then that makes our children not want to be there. The dropout rate is high.
Right.
You know, a lot of children just don't go to school, or they go to school and they become very disruptive. But if they were being taught proper education, proper
knowledge,
then it would be different. As my husband said earlier, he would go into the schools during Black History Month and he would teach, and the children would sit there. These are children that they say could not learn, always acting up, can't stay in their seat. They would sit for him and listen because it was a knowledge that was raising their mind to a whole nother level to a God level, and they loved it.
They loved it.
And then they questioned the teacher because, why aren't you teaching us this? This touched my soul.
They felt it. And I'm going to bear witness to that. My inspiration to go in the public school system revolved around what I suffered.
Right.
You know, doing Black History Week. I mean, I graduated from high school, maybe with an 8th grade education, but I learned to read. You know, and it was during Black History Week that one of the teachers wanted me to read something during Black History, and I wasn't interested in reading because I'm thinking about maybe dropping out of elementary school, much less high school. No, but it was high school then. It was high school. But anyway, she brought me a short story book,
Right.
and one of the little pamphlets, and it was about a Black woman, and the Black woman was Harriet Tubman. And when I read her story,